Hi everyone, my name is Anne. You're welcome to Art on the Creek. We're in my home studio in Parker, Colorado, and I'm so glad you tuned in today because you are here just in time to join us for my second round of beginner watercolor lessons. Today will be lesson number 6. And we've kind of been stuck on a food theme after the donuts one. I guess I kind of got hungry. But if you're curious about all of these lessons, I will put a little card up here to the playlist of all of the watercolor lessons. And of course, stick around because every Saturday for 15 weeks, we'll be doing a beginner lesson. Now, this is our second round, like I said, and the link to that playlist will be up top there in that card and also in the description. Today, though, I was thinking, what should we paint? What should we paint? I'm kind of not sure if everybody wants to paint food all the time, although next week I have some fun food coming up. But lest you think that all I do is eat and think about food, which you wouldn't be far off the mark if that's what you thought, I have something that I found in my house. And this is a nightlight that is in our guest bathroom upstairs. And it has little holes on the bottom where the light bulbs go up in there. But I think because it's metal, the nightlight portion gets burned out really quickly. So I've just taken the lights out and I like it as sculpture. So it kind of fits the theme of our home and where we live. And I thought we could kind of replicate this today, but do it in a really fun rainbow way. Are you ready? Let's go have some fun painting a really colorful bear in a pine forest. Here we go. On here, I'll have a PDF line drawing for you, but I thought it could be a really fun way to paint maybe a holiday greeting if this is something that you would be interested in doing, or if you have a woodsy themed room in your house, then this would be a fun little painting. It'd also make a really great greeting card. So we're going to continue to use our Paul Rubens, and let's take a look at taping off our edges first. Don't really know that we need to do this, but it does give us a nice sense of a border. And if you're putting this on a card that's 5x7, you will need to trim it. So this, since our paper is about 5x7, this will give you space to trim it. And that way you'll be able to play with it a little bit more. We're going to have some fun with this one. For this particular painting, you're also going to need some table salt. So while we're getting set up here, this would be a good time for you to pause the video and just go get yourself some salt. You can use kosher salt or table salt. This is what I have, just regular table salt. I do also have kosher salt. If you have bigger granules, bigger crystals rather, then they will give you different shaped starbursts. So play with it, see what you want to do, but we're going to be using some salt today. All right, I've got our 3 Princeton snap brushes. I have found on Amazon that these may not be always available if you cannot find these. Another really excellent set for you to get is the Mimic. They look like this with the blue handles. They are a faux squirrel and they're made by Creative Mark, and they come in sets of many different kinds. I have a whole lot of them. And the sets that they come in are larger and a little bit more pricey than the Princeton Snap. So you might want to look around and see what you can get. Anything that you can find that will give you some kind of a good feedback. The Mimic is the one I recommend. The brush that I learned on is this one. I learned watercolor on this guy. It's a Princeton Heritage. I'm not as crazy about these. I just don't like them as much. You might get one and try it and see what you think. You might like them better than the Snap, but I think for beginning watercolorists, the Snap is the way to go. So let me just put all of these away here and we'll get into our paints. And we're still using our Paul Rubens. So let's see, the first thing I want to do is sketch. I'm not really going to sketch the trees. I'm just going to let my brush do the sketching, but I do want to mark where they're going to go. So let's see here, across the bottom, I have a little straight edge here. I do want to create some kind of a level floor for our little bear to stand on here. So come in just about, see how much is that? 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, an inch, something like that. And then we can use this also to create our trees. There's one dead center, so we're going to put it right about here. Actually, we can even measure. We can even measure and make this exactly center. So that's about 10 centimeters, so about 5 centimeters here. Here's one of our tree trunks right here. Let's line this up. And then the other one would be back here a bit. Just make sure it's parallel with everything. And then this one also same thing over here, and it's going to be a little bit shorter. All right, so this one I think is just a little too tall. Let me get in here with an eraser. I've got a kneaded eraser. The other kind that I recommend for you guys are these, the high polymer erasers, or you can use a kneaded eraser. If you have a kneaded eraser, before you use it, you want to knead it. What that does is it gets it pliable for you, and it cleans off any other graphite or whatever you have on there from your previous project. But today, I will use this. I'm going to erase lightly, but what I really like about this is that it just doesn't mar the paper. They're nice and gentle. I'm going to pull this down just a little. Okay, I think that's good. And then now our bear. And he is really cute. He's kind of like just a cookie cutter shaped bear. So let's see, we've got a foot here that comes down, and here's the base of the foot. Comes up this way. We've got another foot here, another one here, and one here. All right, and his head is going to be about here. So let's see, have his little nose come out, and he has a mouth and a little pooch under his neck, and a chest that comes out, and then his little bare foot. Coming down here, we've got the same sort of angle on the foot. Sorry, I've got my window open and there's a plane flying overhead. And I've got to move this back foot just a little bit. This one a little bit too fat. I like that he's lifting off on his step here, so I do want to catch that angle. And that comes up to his big old bare rump. They do have kind of a little bump for his tail there, so I'll leave that a bit. Let's see here, and they've got a little bump for his ear. And his shoulder haunch. Let's give him a little more defined tail, shall we? Maybe that won't look good. No, I don't like that at all. We'll just kind of come out like this and then go in. There's our bear. And then we're going to erase the lines that are inside the bear. There we go. And then that's all we need. So this is what I'm going to take a picture of for a PDF right here. And then you can trace the bear if you want to, and we'll go from there. On your PDF, you're also going to see the tape border. So lucky you. It should give you plenty to trace from, though, and you'll be just fine. Okay, so I wanted to tell you how to trace without taking the paper off your block. So once you get the PDF printed out on printer paper, you may then go over it with Sharpie so that you can see the lines, and then turn it over and just take a pencil, any pencil at all, and just kind of color all over the back of it. And then when you turn it back over, you take that pencil and the pressure of your lines going over the lines will leave a graphite drawing on your block, and you won't have to remove the paper from the block. Let me know in the comments if that doesn't make sense, and I can add a quick little tutorial about that. So here we go. This is going to be fun. I'm going to go in with, which brush should I go in with first? I'm going to go with the number 4. Because I want to get my little bear wet. Let's start with him. And I'm also going to let you know that I have my little alarm set on my phone because I have a doctor's appointment. I just have to go in and get just some routine stuff done. There's nothing wrong or anything, but I don't want to be late to the appointment, and I'm painting, so if I don't set an alarm, I will completely miss my appointment. So if you hear an alarm go off, that's me having to leave, and we'll pick it up in just a moment after when I get back. So we might have a brief intermission, but you won't notice. It will just be a quick lapse in time in the editing. So I want to get my bear wet here, but I don't want any puddles, so I'm just kind of spreading this water around. Want to make sure that he's evenly wet. Now what we're going to do, I'm thinking gem tones would be really cool on this. So we're going to use a little bit of red. And then we'll go in with some of this warm yellow. Oh, by the way, the red that I used is, let me show you from this chart because I've renamed them on there. That is the madder red. And now I'm going to go in with the cadmium red light. Okay, let's go in with this emerald green deep. And now we need a nice blue, and I really like this one, the cobalt. Let's do some cobalt in our bear. And last but not least, we want some purple, and I'm going to do the warmer purple, which is the violet. Just kind of using that purple to fill in the places where I haven't really gotten the paint. And then make sure that everything is going to your lines because you don't want the lines to show. Look at how cute he is, you guys. And now, while he is still wet, make sure we get this all filled in there. Okay. And now, while he is still wet, let's get some salt. And we're going to sprinkle some salt right on our bear. And I'm just going to go all over the whole bear. Like so. And then now, you can put as much salt on as you want. Now I'm going to let that dry. One tip I will give you before you put the salt on, make sure you have a lot of pigment down there, because what the salt does is it leaches up, it acts as a sponge, and it absorbs things, and it's going to leave us with a little starburst pattern on our bear. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Okay guys, I'm going to let that go dry for now, and then we will be back, and I will probably be back after my doctor's appointment. See you in a bit. Alrighty, we've got our bear all working here with the salt. It's completely dry. We let it dry on its own, and look at how fun that is. Now I have not brushed the salt off yet, but you can see all of those rainbow colors now have a nice little starlight design to them. And I'm going to use just this little floofy brush to brush the salt off over my trash can over here. Sometimes you may have to use your finger a little bit to coax it to get it to come off, and I did that in this case, but look how fun that is. Look at that texture. So that's our very first piece of this one. And now let's go in with that same brush, the number 4 round. And we're going to do something very similar by just using water We're not going to have any paint on our brush at all right now. We're just going to paint a water tree. So we want to go next to the bear, and when we look at this tree here, you can see it just kind of naturally lends to little brushes, and we're going to leave little holes in it and whatnot. So let's try to do that with our brush. So you want to position your head in a way that you can see what's happening around your paper with the reflection of the light. And we want just a little bit of this tree. Sorry, I'm trying to see and talk at the same time. It's always confusing. We want a little bit of our tree to be behind the bear. So don't forget to put just a little bit down there. And we'll put some back on this end. And what I like to do is to come up to the start of the tree and then bring my water down that way. And this is really just so fun to do because you're just using jaggedy lines and you're not really having any plan of where this is going to go. So the first thing we're going to do is go back into that red, and we just tap it into where it was wet, wherever you want to tap it in. Get a little more pigment down. And now I really like that cobalt blue. And now we went into a green. It was kind of that turquoise green, if I remember correctly. The emerald green. Try not to go over your bear, but we also don't want to have it so that it looks like the bear is too much of a cutout. And I will show you how to get around that here in just a moment. And now let's go into this this orange. It's kind of a warm yellow. This one is called the cad yellow. Oh, I don't have my glasses on, sorry. Indian yellow. Okay, there is our first tree. And now we can do the same thing with the big tree behind us. This time we can be really generous with our water. Just really going to blob that on there and try and keep little holes in it. So this tree can touch the other tree because it's all going to run together. I hope you can see what's happening. I've tinted the water a little bit here. And hopefully that will let you see a bit about where these branches are going. And once again, it is a-okay if those trees touch. That's all part of this. Okay, so now let's see. Let's start with that green. And we're just going to drop it into wherever we have some of that water. And I really like that purple. It'll go into that purple again. And back into that Indian yellow, get some warmth in there. And let's go in with some red. And finally some cobalt blue for this one. Some of your mixes, you'll notice, might turn to gray. Just be ready to lift that out or correct that a little bit. We don't want this to look too boring. But the mixing together is good. Now, do you see this big puddle I've got right up here? That is just too much. So I'm going to take a thirsty brush. You can use the brush that you've already been using. Just make sure that you've got most of the moisture out of it. And then you can just use that to pick up whatever paint you've got that you don't need. And I'm just kind of rolling it there and then wiping it off on my rag on the side of my page here. And then now I can go in with some pigment that's thicker. I think I'll do that blue. And just kind of tap that in up there. And a little bit of red. And we got one more tree to do, folks. This time I've got a little bit of blue on my brush, which is okay. Probably what this is better anyway. I think it will let you see where these trees, where the water goes on these trees. It's just all about being free with the paint. You don't have to worry about a thing. Just put it wherever you think it would be fun. I like that purple a lot. We'll put more of that in. And I think that's good. I got a little too much paint over here. We'll just roll some of this off. Maybe move it into a little bit of a pine there. All right, now I do want to let this dry, but down below here, I'm going to also add in some paints for the bear to stand on our little rainbow forest. So we're just going to get this whole area wet here, and it's okay if your tree bleeds into it. That's just fine. We're just continuing the rainbow. Go in with some of that red, any red that you want to. And then the lemon yellow, or excuse me, the Indian yellow. Some of that green. Blue. And then finally the purple. And this one, we want to get the salt out again and put it on the ground. Try not to get it on the trees, but if you do, it's fine. Putting a pretty good amount down here. I want the bear to kind of be connected to the ground. Now, one thing I do notice is he's not actually touching the ground in some of this here, so let me see if I can make sure that this definitely touches him, very gently going in with some of the colors that I've put down on the rainbow here, and just making sure that they're touching the bear's feet. There we go. All right, now once again, we're going to let this dry, and then I will show you how to really make your bear stand out. All righty, that's had time to dry, and you can see the salt is still on here, so I will show you what that looks like. Let's see what it looks like when we rub it off. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. I will, I'm going to have to take it off camera and rub it off over my trash can here. Interestingly enough, that one didn't have as much of an effect as the salt up here, but you know what? There's a lot of different causes for that, and it could just be, probably just has to do with the amount of water that I had in the paint, but I really am liking the way that this is coming out. So now what we want to do is to get our bear to stand out a little bit more. And what we can do a lot of things. You can leave the trees like they are, or you can go in and do a little bit more on them. And we want our bear to stand out a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something. Now, you don't have to do this. You can use any other color in your paint set to do this, but these are pearlescent paints. I absolutely love them, particularly the golds. I'm going to go into this warmer gold here, and they do need to be prepped. So I'm just going to spray some water in there. I said that the number 4 is all you would need. So let's just use that number 4. And I'm going into the Fine-Tech Gold here. You can use any kind of metallic paints that you have. I just happen to really like these. I'll link to everything in the description. I'll add this on in case you're interested and curious about these. They come in all kinds of different colors. Actually, any of these colors would work. So we're going to have some of this on our brush here. Make sure I don't have any little extra things on there. And I'm going to go around our bear. We've got a little too much water in that. We want this to be pretty thick, so bear with me just 1 second. This is not quite, I got too much water in there. Not quite thick enough. It needs to be about the texture of yogurt. There we go. That's much more like it. And I'm just going around the edge of our bear. You could do this with a gold pen or a gold marker if you wanted to, if you didn't think your hand was steady enough. If you wanted to practice your brushwork, this is a good way to do it. Just choke up on the handle, hold it really close to the filaments, and you should be just fine. I've kind of got it squished a little bit. It's a little bit flat so that I can have like a mini chisel here. And I'm just going around that way. There we go. And this will help separate him a little bit from the forest. But it will still be subtle enough that we'll still have the feeling that the bear is in his natural surroundings. There we go. I'll tip that against the light for you there so that you can see. And then if you wanted to take it one step further, there is some things you could do here. Let's go back into that gold. We'll make some more paint. And let's see, we can just make a little bit of design on the trees. Being very sketchy with my brush here. And be careful not to disturb the outline of your bear. Once again, just being really sketchy and loose. And then we can do the same on these two trees over here. And this part is completely optional. You just don't need to do this at all. You could just leave it just like it is if you prefer. Or you could go in with a white gel pen and do some of this. Really, you can just play with it however you want. There's a lot to be done here that can just be so much fun. And I think what I'm going to do is go along this top line of the ground, just like so. There we go. Now let me give this a dry, and then we are finished with our sweet little bear card. And this will be a fun one for you to play with. You could also do a motif where it's nighttime and you could have a background in there. I'm going to leave mine white though to keep it simple. And now let's take off the washi tape. Now remember, when you're taking off the washi tape, heat up the tape before you pull, and pull it off at a 90-degree angle. And if you do those two very simple things, you won't ruin your paper. I've never ruined a paper doing it with that method. Isn't that cool? A little bit of batik tie-dye looking bear in the forest for you. And then of course, we want to sign that. I think I have purple ink in my fountain pen, so that worked out just right. But there you go, guys. That is a really fun way to play with your paints. You can augment with these type of paints. Finetech is one brand that I really like. Paul Rubens does make a set of the paints that are pearlescent, and I can link to those as well. So if you're interested in getting some of those, this might be a fun way for you to try them. If not, you could just go around it with one of the colors that you've used already in here, or with one of your white gel pens. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time on our beginning watercolor lessons. Bye now. I so appreciate you guys hanging out with me for this real-time 30-minute lesson. If you'd like more lessons like this, just stay tuned every Saturday for the next few weeks. We'll be doing more and more of these beginner watercolor lessons. Please consider liking and sharing and leaving a comment, or if you haven't, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See you next time.